JB here, 8:55 on this July 31st, 2024, Fed Day. Welcome to Fed Day. It also looks like Reversal Wednesday. We'll have to see how this all plays out heading into 2 o'clock. But we had earnings after the close yesterday. After a rough session, NASDAQ was getting pummeled. S&P was down 0.5%. Uh, all the chip names, the video was getting destroyed, hitting multi-month lows. And then all of a sudden, Microsoft reported earnings. And I was saying it on the rant yesterday afternoon and yesterday morning. It was almost like Microsoft needed to post a solid quarter to kind of put Google's earnings to rest. And they did that, posted a great beat and raise. But then there's concerns, I guess, around cost. I think that's the big story now is all this spend on AI, billions of dollars. What is, is there going to be a return on investment? What does that all look like? And then there was a little slowdown in Microsoft's cloud business. So even despite the beat and raise, Microsoft traded into the 390s. It's bounced back here this morning. It's at four. Well, actually, it's at 415 now. Would not be surprised. It's done this before, where it's sold off after earnings, pre-market, after hours and pre-market, and then bounced into the green. Not going to trade it, but considering where it was, I mean, it's what 15% off its highs. Certainly some opportunity here for a little move. And then the other side was AMD, and AMD is kind of the benefits from all this AI spend, right? And the video, all these chip names benefit from Microsoft, Google, all these other companies spend on AI. So uh, NVIDIA was able to post a strong quarter, a beat and raise, and that kind of alleviated some concerns around AMD. So you see that one spiking. I think the implied move was 8%, so hopefully it gets a little over that. I'll talk about that in a second. But the important thing is the S&P would hit lows. It was 540, despite hit 547 at the open, and then we sold off all the way down at pretty much exactly 1 o'clock. The SPY hit 538, so broke through 544 and 541 support areas. It just seemed like it was gonna be an ugly session, and then some buyers came and we slowly melted and recouped a decent amount of the losses. Closed right pretty much at the 50-day moving average. 50-day moving average on the SPY is 542.12, and we close at 542. So certainly, if we do get some weakness, if it happens post-Fed during Powell's press conference or after the statement, want to see that 544 handle hold and then 542 now for that 50-day moving average. But hopefully alleviate some concerns here. Powell can paint his little picture or create the narrative around possibly 2 rate cuts. Not overly dovish, not overly hawkish, kind of like a Goldilocks scenario. And then markets hopefully can find some footing into the end of the week. We have Meta earnings after close today. We have Apple and Amazon tomorrow, along with a slew of other names. So it should be interesting. The also thing of note is Jackson Hole, not Jackson Hole, is August 22nd, August 24th. I'm not sure when Powell speaks, but there's been a lot of historical things that have happened at Jackson Hole, where Bernanke did some. I think when he first talked about quantitative easing and all these big events have happened with the Fed and announcements at that symposium. So I would assume that if Powell's going to make any surprise comments or comments that might move markets, he'll probably wait to Jackson Hole. So just my humble opinion. On the flip side, take a look at the Dow yesterday, and small caps both closed in the green. Small caps, you keep looking, it looks like a bull flag, and I keep saying it's on blue in the face, but it's a $25 move from those lows. You split that in half, it's another 1250, which puts us at about 240 on the IWM. So some silver lining, despite all the volatility. The VIX was over 18 yesterday. It's back down here at 1647. So hopefully we get some support here, decent earnings for the rest of the week, and then we can shake off what people are saying. Oh, the start of a correction, or here we can market meltdown. The bubble we'll have comparison charts between 2000 and 2008, and just how it always works. And I always like to keep things in perspective. I put these charts yesterday, but if you look at NVIDIA, it's down 22% since June 20th. But then if you look, it was up 175% to start the year. So, I mean, it helps keep things in perspective when you look at things kind of through that lens, as opposed to just saying, whoa, the video's getting destroyed. It's down 22% since June 20th. Well, here we go. All right. So individual names. So I already talked about AMD, and I think I did the count yesterday. It was down like 12 of the past 13 sessions. It was all the way at 195 or in the 190s in the middle of July. And there was not really much in the way of catalyst. They purchased an AI company, and that was the thing that was like the last straw for its highs, and then it's been in a downward spiral ever since. I got some spec lotto calls on AMD. I they actually gained some premium yesterday. Uh, I'm not sure what they're going to open. I hope they are hoping they open somewhat green or solidly green, and I'll probably just close them out at the open because I'll be worried about some premium crush as the day progresses, and then I might look for some other strikes. I think it trades up near back up its 50-day moving average, 162 or so. So that's the thought process there in AMD. It was almost like a relief quarter, and I think it kind of allayed some concerns that folks were having around AMD. And they always, I call it the stepchild in the chip sector. Everybody looks at Nvidia and all these other names, but I think AMD, that great quarter should bode well. Gilead, nice day again yesterday, closed in the green for the fifth session in a row. I locked those August 80s in. At some point, if I get a chance, I'll lock some of my September 85s when they're up 100% to cover costs. They have earnings. I think their earnings are next week. PayPal just disappointing. I wouldn't say disappointing. Great earnings yesterday, and kind of switched the story on PayPal as well in regards to just being a value stock. Raised their buyback authorization to 6 billion. The stock was taken off in the air right after the bell. I looked at the calls and they look very inexpensive on a risk reward basis. The August 70s. I'm like, wow, these almost like pricing in a flat move for the rest of the week and next week, because there's plenty of time, 2.5 weeks to August expiration. So when it got to 70s, it tried to break into the 64s, struggled there, and then broke back under. The market started selling off, so I didn't want to be in a spot where I um, lost everything. So I went and closed those out. I'll revisit at some point, possibly some more upgrades this morning. I think it trades up near $70 in the next week or two. So continue to look at PayPal. I added those Broadcom hedge puts yesterday. The stock was breaking under 150, tested lows in the afternoon. I went and closed some of the calls out for 50%, and then the market started to find a footing. Broadcom started to move higher, so I closed the rest out for a small gain. I wouldn't say I was kicking myself yesterday, but right after Microsoft earnings, everything tanked and Broadcom traded down to 142, and here it is up at 152 here in the pre-market. So lucky I closed those out. I put it on the watch list this morning. I would not be surprised to see it uh, trade up to 160 or so in the coming days. So don't be surprised if I add some spec calls on the flip side because of the big sell-off. I mean, it was $185 in the middle of June, all the way down to 142 after hours yesterday. So not saying just because it sold off so much can't go down further. I just think there's an opportunity here, especially if the market finds some footing. So that's that. iRobot reports earnings next week. If it gets over $12 today, I'll probably look for some more strikes there. We'll love that story. WW reports earnings tomorrow. So tomorrow before the bells, WW. Still I have spec calls on that one. I'm not going to add anything just yet. This is probably one of those quarters that needs to really have either some positive commentary or updates, or this might be, I wouldn't say the nail in the coffin, but it's a hero zero story. I'm hoping it starts switching to a hero story, and tomorrow could be it. After the close tomorrow, Square and Roku. So Square was disappointing. I mean, you would think PayPal's earnings would kind of be a benchmark, or at least a guide for folks looking into Square earnings. A similar business, you would think a big pickup for PayPal would bode well for Square. And that was not the case. It was gapping higher in the pre-market, opened higher, tested almost near 63, and just gave it all back. Still like the Square story. I think it's going to post a beat and raise. It's almost like there's folks in there, and there's been some short pieces on Square. People, those bear folks, hopefully not, well, not Citron Research, well, maybe. uh, he, I think that's some of it, that regardless of what the stock does, the updates, people are still short in the stock. So maybe that's it. But I think a big beat and raise could do it. What else do we have here? I was looking at Western Digital calls. I'll probably pass on that name. It's not I've traded that a long time ago. I was looking to possibly get some calls. They report earnings after close today. I'll probably pass on that one. Arista Networks after close, I tweeted. I traded that up in, I guess, from 300 to 330 for some nice profits. Then I kind of took it off my radar. They reported earnings after the close yesterday, and it was a beat, a huge beat and raise, and the stock was trading down to 293. I looked at the numbers. I said, wow. And, I guess some folks are saying, well, the bar for big tech has been raised. So people are expecting monster beats and raises, not just beats and raises, I guess. I don't know, but it's reversing course here. And then considering the stock was up near 375, 380 just a couple weeks ago, could be a nice spec call place. Don't be surprised if you see me add some Arista Network calls. Trying to think of some of the other names I'm looking at. I think that's about it. Broadcom, Starbucks. off the lows. I not one I've traded in much of recently, so and I haven't even looked at their report too much, but that one's bouncing nice this morning. So I'm not going to talk about that one. I think that's about it, folks. Funny that the SPY's up here near 549 this morning, and the small cap futures are up 0.4%, but the S&P futures are up 1.2%. So we're gonna have a different kind of rotation today. As long as we close green, SPY holds some support here. 549 I put on a watch list, looks like resistance from last Wednesday. If we can get through that, 550 would be nice today. But I hate to see a big rally into the Fed. Maybe some chop here. And then with the Fed, it always seems like a knee-jerk reaction. So maybe we'll get a big bounce after the statement, and then it reverses, and then finally it settles down around 3 o'clock. But should be interesting. Let's have a great day, folks. I'll be back on audio later. Rock and roll.